They said they were just enforcing HOA rules. But when I saw my wife lie on the driveway, bleeding terrified, I didn't see neighbors anymore. I saw threats. What they didn't know was who I used to be, and that mistake, it changed everything that came next. When I left the Navy after 20 years of service, all I wanted was quiet. No more missions. No more orders. Just a simple life with my wife, Emily, and our golden retriever, Max. We found it here, this quiet little neighborhood tucked between the hills, where every lawn looked like a postcard and every evening smelled like fresh-cut grass. The first few months felt like a dream. We'd sip coffee on the porch every morning, waving at the same joggers and dog walkers. Emily loved tending to her roses, and I learned to sleep without the sound of helicopters in the distance. For once, peace didn't feel temporary. It felt earned. The HOA, the Homeowners Association, was part of that peace. At first, anyway. They kept the place neat, organized. Rules about trash bins, lawns, mailboxes, nothing unreasonable. I respected structure. It was familiar. But even back then, something felt off. The HOA president, Mr. Duffy, had a way of smiling that didn't reach his eyes. Always watching, always reminding people what they owed to the community. Still, I told myself it was harmless, just suburban politics. I'd seen real conflict. After all, what could possibly go wrong in a neighborhood this perfect? If only I'd known that peace can be the calmest part of the storm. They say trouble always knocks softly the first time, and that morning, it came in an envelope. It was a bright Tuesday, one of those mornings that feels too calm to ever go wrong. Emily was out front, watering her roses, when she noticed a white slip tucked under our door. At first, she smiled, thinking it was a welcome note from a neighbor. But when I saw the HOA logo stamped across the top, my stomach sank. Violation notice number 1045, improper bin placement. Apparently, our trash cans have been left out an extra hour after pickup. An hour. Emily laughed it off, thinking it was a mistake. She even wrote a polite email to the HOA, apologizing and promising to be more careful. 2 hours later, she got a reply. No greeting, no kindness, just cold authority. This is your official warning. Future violations will result in penalties. I brushed it off at first. Bureaucracy, I thought. People who need to feel important. But Emily, she looked uneasy. She said one of the HOA men, tall, bald, with mirrored sunglasses, had driven by twice that day, just staring. Over the next few weeks, the letters kept coming, each one sharper, more personal. They began citing things that weren't even real violations. Grass too long, paint too faded. I'd been trained to notice patterns, and this wasn't random. It was targeted. I told Emily not to worry, but as I slipped the latest notice into the drawer, I couldn't shake one thought. Someone had decided we were their next project. And I don't do well being someone's target. When rules turn into weapons, you stop living in a neighborhood and start surviving in one. A week later, I caught them in the act. 2 men from the HOA, same bald guy, plus another younger one with a clipboard, standing in our driveway, taking pictures of our home. No notice, no permission. Just snapping away like paparazzi. Emily was on the porch, frozen. She asked them politely what they were doing. The bald one smirked. Routine inspection, he said. Your property's on our watch list. Watch list. Those words hit me harder than I expected. I stepped outside, calm but firm, the way I used to address rookies on a mission. You've got no right to be here without notice, I said. He adjusted his sunglasses, looking me up and down. We make the rules here, sir. You should read them more carefully. There was a silence, long enough for Max, our dog, to start growling low beside me. The younger one shifted uncomfortably. They turned and left without another word, but the way they looked back told me this wasn't over. Over the next few days, the tension grew thicker. We wake up to find fresh photographs taped to our mailbox, zoomed-in shot of our yard, our car, even our windows. No note, no signature. Just images that said we see you. Neighbors began avoiding us. Conversations stopped when we walked by. Someone had twisted the story. turned us into villains in our own neighborhood. Emily tried to stay calm, but I could see the fear building behind her eyes. I'd faced ambushes, insurgents, chaos, but this was different. This was quiet warfare. And the worst part? I couldn't tell if it was personal or if this was how the HOA kept everyone in line. Either way, I knew one thing. Next time they showed up, I'd be ready. You can ignore threats for only so long, until they walk right up to your front door. It was a Saturday morning. Sunlight cutting across the driveway. Birds somewhere in the distance. Peaceful. For once. I thought we might finally have a normal day. Emily was out front, trimming her roses again. I was inside making coffee when I heard it. Voices. Not talking. Arguing. When I stepped outside, 2 HOA enforcers were standing by our fence again. The bald one and his partner, clipboard in hand. Emily was holding a letter, her hands trembling. "What's this about now?" she asked, her voice shaking but steady. "Non-compliance," the bald man said flatly. "You were warned." Emily frowned. "Warned for what? The grass? The roses?" He stepped closer. Too close. "For disrespecting the association." That's when I moved. Calm. Controlled. My voice low. "Step back," I said. "Now." He didn't. He laughed. The smug, taunting laugh that made my skin crawl. "Or what? You're going to file a complaint." Emily took a step between us, trying to defuse it. "Please," she said. "We don't want trouble." He shoved her shoulder. Hard. Time slowed. Her body hit the concrete. A sound I'll never forget. Her head striking the edge of the step. The coffee mug in my hand shattered against the ground. But I didn't even feel it. For one brief second, the world went silent. No wind. No sound. Just her lying there, blood trickling from her temple. I remember his smirk fading as I took one slow step forward. Every part of me wanted to unleash 20 years of training right there. But something inside whispered louder. Not yet. I knelt beside Emily, checked her breathing, then looked up at them. My voice came out calm, deadly calm. "Leave. Now. Before you make another mistake." They backed away. Fast. Neighbors peeked from behind curtains, phones in their hands. But no one helped. As the ambulance lights painted the street red and blue, one thought repeated in my head. They picked the wrong family. And they had no idea who they'd just punched. People think strength is about how hard you hit. But real strength is knowing when not to. The moment the paramedics arrived, my instincts kicked in. Calm, focused, automatic. While they checked Emily's vitals, I scanned the area, memorizing faces, positions, license plates. Every detail locked in. Years of training don't just disappear. They go quiet, waiting for permission to move. The HOA men were still nearby, trying to look innocent, muttering to each other. I could hear the bald one say, "She got in the way." My hands clenched, but I stayed still. When the officer approached me, I didn't yell, didn't accuse. I spoke like I was giving a field report. 2 male subjects. I said evenly, mid-40s, 161, bald. The other, brown hair, late 20s. Both physically confronted my wife on our property. Witnesses at house number 9 and 11. The officer nodded, scribbling fast. He could feel the tension, how close it was to breaking. As they loaded Emily into the ambulance, she looked at me and whispered, "Don't." Just that one word. And she didn't have to say more. She knew what I was capable of, and how much I was holding back. I followed the ambulance to the hospital. The whole ride, I replayed it. His shove, her fall, the blood. My heart wanted revenge. My training demanded patience. That night, I started documenting everything. Every notice, every photo, every threat. I called a friend, a detective I'd served with overseas, and told him I had a situation brewing in suburbia that needed eyes on it. He laughed at first, until I told him what happened. Then he went silent. By morning, I had footage from a neighbor's doorbell camera. Crystal clear, the shove, the punch, the entire assault. I didn't need to go after them. The truth would. And sometimes, the quietest soldier in the room is the most dangerous one. Sometimes you don't have to fight the war. Just expose the people who started it. The next morning, the neighborhood woke up to flashing lights. Police cruisers lined the street, officers walking door to door. The same HOA men who had strutted through our yard like they owned it were now sitting on the curb, faces pale, answering questions they couldn't talk their way out of. I stood on the porch, silent, coffee in hand, arm in a sling from where I'd caught Emily mid-fall. The detective I'd called, Ramirez, was there now, gruff, sharp-eyed. He'd seen the footage, and the expression on his face said everything. "Got them dead to rights," he murmured. "And looks like your HOA's been running a little intimidation racket for years." Turns out we weren't the first family they'd harassed, just the first to fight back. Ramirez's team started digging. Old complaints surfaced. Voicemails, threats, even fines that never existed on paper, but somehow ended up in people's mailboxes. The HOA board scrambled. Their president, Mr. Duffy, tried to spin it, claimed it was a misunderstanding, that his enforcers had overreacted. But the internet doesn't forgive. When the footage leaked, neighbors' phones, doorbell cams, all of it, it spread faster than they could bury it. By the end of the week, the enforcers were charged with assault and trespassing. The HOA's offices were shut down pending investigation. I visited Emily in the hospital that evening. She was bruised, tired, but smiling when I walked in. "It's over," I said softly. She looked at me, eyes steady. "No," she whispered. "It's just starting." She was right. Justice might be slow, but this time it was coming home. The truth doesn't hide forever. It just waits for the right moment to destroy the lie. Within days, the story hit the local news. HOA assault scandal rocks quiet suburb. Reporters lined the streets. Neighbors suddenly remembered everything they'd seen, but never said. It turned out the two enforcers who attacked Emily weren't just bullies. They were former security contractors, men Duffy had hired off the books. Their job wasn't community service. It was control. They'd been intimidating homeowners, issuing fake fines and pocketing the money. When investigators raided the HOA office, they found boxes of falsified notices, hidden bank accounts, and a long list of families who paid to avoid trouble. Ours was just the first to push back far enough to bring the whole thing down. Neighbors started showing up at the hospital with flowers, apologies, even tears. The same people who once looked away now wanted to help. And for the first time since we'd moved there, the community felt united. Emily's injuries healed slowly, but her spirit didn't break. She looked at me one evening, her voice quiet but strong. Maybe it took this to remind them. Power doesn't belong to the loudest. It belongs to the ones who stand their ground. She was right. And as the HOA collapsed, I realized something else. Peace isn't the absence of conflict. It's having the strength to face it and stay standing. Some battles end in silence, but that doesn't mean you didn't win. 3 months later, the HOA was gone, dissolved. The enforcers faced trial, and Mr. Duffy resigned before the verdict even came down. The neighborhood, once ruled by fear, started to heal. People waved again. Kids played outside. The street felt alive for the first time since we'd moved in. Emily and I rebuilt. Her garden, my trust and peace. Some mornings, I still catch her on the porch, sunlight on her face, and for a moment, everything feels right again. I never wanted to be a soldier here. But maybe standing your ground doesn't always mean fighting. It means knowing when to fight. The calm I'd searched for all those years, it wasn't out there somewhere. It was in knowing that, when the moment came, I did what was right. And this time, the mission was home. I spent years fighting battles overseas, but the hardest one happened right here, in my own neighborhood. If you've ever been pushed, silenced, or made to feel powerless, remember this. You don't need to strike back to win. Stand your ground. Stay calm. And never, ever let fear make the rules.